Hey guys, Jamsters here, and welcome to the channel. So I picked up this VHS tape that looked very interesting to me. It's The Art of Dining for Formal Dinners. The tape is catered towards corporate officials and salespeople, and it covers various things such as how to write a proper invitation, how guests should be seated, how to use utensils properly, and so on. The teachings in this tape are of Marjabel Young Stewart, who was actually a pretty prominent figure in the world of etiquette. Stewart has been referred to as the Empress of Etiquette by Newsweek magazine. She has appeared on various talk shows such as Good Morning America, The Today Show, the CBS Morning News, and she's even written over 14 books. She also gives executive training seminars a few times a year throughout the US, as well as London, Paris, and Tokyo. However, as your average person, I have mixed feelings about this tape, so let's just get into it.
The table is ready, and the candles are lit, as they always would be before the guests entered the dining room.
So the first thing the tape explains is how to professionally write an invitation to a formal dinner. Third person should be used rather than saying, "I invite you," and the invitation should be written 3 weeks before the event, either handwritten or engraved.
You will probably be invited for 8 or 8:30. Do arrive on time. Guests are expected to arrive no later than 8 minutes past the appointed time.
So what time do I arrive? 8 or 8:30? It also states that you should reply to the invitation on cream-colored paper, and it should be written in third person just like the invitation. And then there's the confusing seating situation. If it's a business dinner, then seating is by rank, but if it's a social situation, then men and women are seated alternately. So once the guests have arrived and are seated, the first course is the clam course, and Marjabel Young Stewart actually asks us as viewers to bring our fork and knife as we follow along with the tape.
Throughout the course of this meal, let's watch closely and learn the proper use of every utensil.
The first utensil we're instructed on how to use is the seafood fork. Hold it at the top with the thumb and index finger, and let the fork rest on your middle finger. Then, pierce the lemon with the fork, cup your hand, and squeeze the lemon over the clams. And yes, those are actual directions given in the tape. There's a lot of that in the tape.
Secure the shell and lift the caviar-topped clam to your mouth. As you take a bite, lean forward to meet the fork. As you lower it, lean back.
Now for the soup course, the instructions on how to eat are so bizarre to me.
Pick up the soup spoon and hold it as you would a pencil. Dip the soup by moving the spoon away from you.
I've never seen that before. Does anyone actually eat soup that way? By putting the spoon away from you instead of towards you?
One thing you want to remember about eating delicate soup is don't slurp. All you need to do is bring the soup to your lips, tilt the bowl, and inhale like an angel. Inhale like an angel.
After you've finished your soup, you should leave your spoon in your soup bowl, and your waiter must always remove your bowl from the right, for some reason. Next up, we have the fish course. Very specific instructions are given on how to serve yourself the fish, and you are told to return the serving utensils to the platter, fork on bottom, spoon turned over on top of the fork, with the two slightly crossed. Here we are given another crash course on how to hold a fork and knife properly. You are instructed to let the knife and fork rest across your hands diagonally. Then, close your hands and rotate your wrists, turning your palms down. Make sure that each utensil is controlled by your thumb and index finger.
Don't use a pitchfork hold or a cello hold. If you do, you'll make a bad impression on your fellow diners.
I think that statement right there pretty much sums up the entire tape. But the most significant thing we learn is probably the difference between the continental and American style.
First, the continental, and later we'll review the American style. The continental way is to secure the meat or fish in your left hand and cut with your right. Then, with your left hand, lift the first bite to your mouth with the fork held tines down. The resting position for this style is placement of knife and fork in a V with the fork tines down. When you're finished, move them together, closing the door. Or the American style, sometimes called the zigzag style because the fork changes hands. To use the American style, you'll hold the knife in your right hand and the fork in your left. Stroke the meat. It's acceptable to cut as many as 3 bites at a time. Now, put the knife down and take the fork in your right hand, bringing it tines upward to your mouth. To rest, place your knife across the top of the plate, blade toward the center, and leave the fork tines up at a distance from the knife. Place fork and knife in the closed or finished position when you are done, side by side, at 4 o'clock on the right.
You would have to be carefully watching someone and looking for these specifics in order to actually notice these things. But who would do that? Then we're told that while eating the sorbet, you should sit with your elbows close to your body as if there is a book tucked up high underneath each arm and you can't drop the books. But why though? What is it about sorbet that requires such an awkward and uncomfortable posture? We're reminded of the difference between the continental and American style during the meat course, and we're also told to only make up to 3 cuts into the meat at a time.
And enjoy the conversation. You're invited for your company and conversation, not your appetite.
Invited for my company but not my appetite? Then why is it a dinner?
When you're finished, bring the utensils together. The continental finished fork tines down. The American finished fork tines up. Your fruit plate is brought in, and on top of it, your finger bowl. If the fruit course requires a fruit fork and knife, simply place the utensils at the sides of your plate. Lift the finger bowl with your index finger, thumb, and third finger of your right hand, and pick up the doily with your left hand.
I feel like instinctually most people would pick it up like that anyway, though I don't know what difference it would make and why it even matters.
If you're ever in doubt at the table about what to do, take a sip as you watch your hostess or someone else who seems to know what to do. And while you're at it, do hold the glass correctly as he's doing.
Doesn't that just sound so condescending? Like, if you don't know what the hell's going on, at least hold your glass correctly. Finally, after explaining how to eat dessert, which looks like some kind of taco salad bowl, the tape ends off with what they refer to as tricky foods, in which they make the simplest foods to eat the most complicated. This includes raspberries with a spoon, shrimp with a fork, and you cannot eat the whole thing in one bite, and watermelon with a fork and knife.
There is a grown-up way to eat watermelon. Use a knife and fork. If you get seeds in your mouth, and you will, drop them into your tightly cupped hand, then put them on your plate.
I have so many questions about this. First of all, why isn't the watermelon just pre-cut before it's served to them? Wouldn't that make more sense? Second of all, what makes this the grown-up way to eat watermelon? If anything, I feel like this is something a child would do as a joke. I also want to add that I'm kind of surprised that they're just supposed to spit the seeds into their hand and leave it on their plate. I would have expected some kind of tray, or even somebody with a bucket on the side for them to spit the seeds into. Anyways, when I think of a formal dinner, I think of things like escargot and caviar, which they do include. However, they also include fried chicken, spaghetti, and club sandwiches. I don't know why I find that kind of surprising. They explicitly say that lobster and corn on the cob would never be found at a formal dinner because they're too messy, so I'm not sure why they even included them. Especially the lobster because they spend a good 5 minutes explaining how to eat it. What's the point? The tape ends off with the seated guests and Marjabelle Young Stewart giving a pretty wholesome toast.
To all of you, love, laughter, and happy ever after. And to all of you, all the success in the world.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.